Hi everybody, it's Sheri. Welcome to my business journey journal. Yes, I already have my sage going. And tonight I decided, you've got the monster trucks tonight for the backdrop. Just let my camera. I'm wearing my Envision Dream Rock and Roll heart, rainbow heart shirt in blue, and I have my rainbow heart red sip and think mug. So tonight's topic is established my type. I do have to tell you that when I was putting this outline together, I was kind of like having a tough time with it. And I really believe that a lot of people have a tough time with this part of their business journey. And I am not by far the professional when it comes to establishing my type. A lot of thought went into it. So going back to the last two videos that we did, we came up with a business idea and we made the decision that we were going to be an entrepreneur. So we were going to sell our dirt for a profit. So when making the decision to become an entrepreneur, we actually were making the decision for a lifestyle change. And last week we talked about 3 collections. So we have a business idea. We made the decision we were going to become a business owner and change our lifestyle. And we figured that we were going to have 3 collections so that we would have a strong foundation. But you can actually, if you haven't seen the videos, you can watch them. They're up on YouTube, they're up on Facebook, and they're on Instagram as well. So you're welcome to watch them if you missed anything. So now what, right? I don't have my notes right in front of me, so I have them up on the computer. So I'm going to have to keep turning my head. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you're never coming round. All right, so when we were discussing a mound of dirt and trying to figure out if we were going to become an entrepreneur, we kind of reviewed or just briefly summed over that there were 4 types of entrepreneurs. So let's review. The 4 types of entrepreneurs, which is anyone interested in starting or running their own business, should consider which entrepreneurial model they would prefer. So we're going back to that. The 4 types are small business, scalable startup, large company, and social entrepreneurship. I know, I said, what does that mean? So I looked them up, of course. Small business could be any company, restaurant, or retail store that's launched by a founder without any intention of growing the business into a chain, franchise, or conglomerate. Small business entrepreneurs usually invest their own money to get their companies off the ground, and they only make money if the business succeeds. So in the previous video, we talked about risk, weighing it out. Scalable startups are less common, though they tend to attract a lot of media attention. These businesses begin on a very small scale, often as just the seeds of an idea, like our mound of dirt. This is then nurtured and scaled, typically through the involvement of outside investors until it becomes something much larger. So I'm going to say, and this is just my opinion, I don't know if it's fact, you can look it up and research on your own. So basically it's stating that a scalable company is like a smaller company to just kind of get it out there, but it grabs a lot of attention from the media. And then as it's nurtured, similar to nurturing your own garden with water and sunlight, love, TLC, it's scaled, but then outside investors will come in and they'll, I guess, buy up the company. So I'm assuming that's what that means, but I could be completely wrong. So again, you might want to do some research, especially if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur and you're looking at the 4 different types. A large company, so what I got from that was sometimes entrepreneurs work within a larger establishment and they realize that there's a division of the company that's not necessarily there. So they might come to the company and say, hey, I have this idea for a division of the company, and they become an entrepreneur for that division, but they're actually kind of like a division off of the larger company. So they get that branding awareness and they're funded by it. Let's see, hold on. Stay with me here. All right, so social entrepreneurship. A social entrepreneur launches an organization that's fundamentally about enacting positive social change, not merely generating profits. They are willing to take on the risk and effort to create positive changes in society through their initiatives. So basically, the social entrepreneur seeks innovative solutions to community-based problems. For example, the social change to environmental conversation, racial justice, or philanthropic activity in an underserved community. So my question to you out there is that, would you say a social entrepreneurship is kind of like a nonprofit? Or is it a for-profit, but yet they're going for social change, like when everybody was wearing those vote or else shirts, you know? I'm just asking. So now that I know the 4 types, for my company, was like, yeah, I'm going to be a small business because I really need to do this where it's something I can do realistically. However, since I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to have a small business, and I wanted to take this idea and these 3 collections, and I wanted to now formalize it, I ended up going to LegalZoom.com, and it says sign up, right? So I go to sign up, and then it says, well, there's 4 ways you can set up your business. So I'm like, oh, geez, now I have to research. What are these 4 ways to set up your business? So there's an LLC, a corporation, a nonprofit, or doing business as. So an LLC is a limited liability company in the United States, specific form of a private limited company. It is a business structure that can combine the pass-through taxation of a partnership or sole proprietorship with the limited liability of a corporation. Then there's corporation. A corporation is an organization, usually a group of people or a company authorized by the state to act as a single entity and recognized as such in law for certain purposes. Early incorporated entities were established by charter. Most jurisdictions now allow the creation of new corporations through registration. I know, you're like, Sheri, what does all this mean? This is all like gibberish. Well, you told me you wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I'm just giving you some insights. Nonprofit. So a nonprofit organization, also known as a non-business entity, not-for-profit organization, or non-profit institution, is a legal entity organized and operated for a collective, public, or social benefit. In contrast with an entity that operates as a business aiming to generate a profit for its owners. And then the fourth way is doing business as, which is you might need to register your DBA for doing business as, also known as a trade name, fictitious name, or assumed name, with the state, county, or city your business is located in. Registering your DBA name doesn't provide legal protection by itself, but most states require you to register your DBA if you use one. So, when trying to figure out how I was going to set my business up, I knew I wasn't doing nonprofit. I wanted to gain a profit, which meant the risk is I could lose a lot of money. But I'm not doing nonprofit. So I can scratch that off my list of the 4 ways to set up the business. Then I looked at it and said, well, sometimes people do LLC or they do corporation. And I kept going back and forth with my head and saying, well, which one do you want to do, Sheri? And I was like, well, I'm really like a sole proprietorship. Like I'm my own individual and I'm running the company. So maybe it makes sense realistically to be a limited liability. And I chose the limited liability versus doing business as because of the protection. So my assets, my personal assets are protected. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to formalize my entrepreneurship into an LLC, was because I already have assets and I'm out there taking a risk, putting my name and putting my business out there. But you have to think of, well, this is kind of where you have to think of like the what if this happens. How would you protect yourself? How would you protect the fact that they can't come and sue you or take your house and take your assets, you know? So I had learned a little bit about that when I was in business school, and then also when my dad had his own business and my sisters have their own businesses. So I just decided that I would make Envision Dream into an LLC. I was looking at the doing business as, I somewhat believe, and again, people, I may not be correct on this. I'm just trying to help you go through what I went through when I went to set up my company. So doing business as, it's saying also known as a trade name, fictitious name, or an assumed name with the state, county, or city. So if I'm doing something for a business, I'm doing it as the business. So I'm not necessarily doing it as Sheri, the personal person. I'm doing it as the business, Envision Dream. I hope that's the right meaning. Again, like I said, this was not my strong point, but I still was going to come on here and I was going to tell you what I went through to turn my entrepreneur company into an LLC. So it says here, when I looked a little bit more, and maybe doing business as is like a step before you do an LLC, but it doesn't protect you. It doesn't protect your assets. But maybe that's all you have the money for. So, you know, maybe you can start there. I don't, you know, you really have to look at it. It's your business, it's your journey. So let's see. The main benefit of filing a DBA, which is doing business as, registration, is it will keep you in compliance with the law. For sole proprietors, a DBA lets them use a typical business name without creating a formal legal entity, as in a corporation or LLC. However, be advised that a DBA doesn't protect your business name from being used by others. The biggest difference between a DBA and an LLC is liability protection. Under a DBA, there is no distinction between the business owner and the business. On the other hand, an LLC provides limited liability protection. The business owner's personal property remains completely separate from their business, and that's something I always wanted. So that's why Envision Dream is an LLC. If I really dreamt big enough, I could have incorporated it and then thought about having chains in different places. But I don't know. I don't know if eventually, like if it grows well enough, if I would be able to change it from an LLC into a corporation. But, you know, it's something to always think about for the future. I know I have a few locations that I'm looking at if I was to do it like that. But right now, where I am, I just figured that I would learn the ins and outs of the business and protect myself and my assets at the same time. So, Envision Dream LLC is a small business, right? It's a limited liability company. It was established on March 1st, 2020. I went to LegalZoom and filled out the paperwork right online. Honestly, it's easy to fill out the paperwork. The part that got me stuck was figuring out what type and which way I was going to do it. So, LegalZoom, I am not an affiliate for LegalZoom. There are plenty of people out there who are. And it is a legal technology company that helps its customers create legal documents without necessarily having to hire a lawyer. Available documents include wills and living trusts, business formation documents, copyright registrations, and trademark applications. So with LegalZoom, I ended up going with the package that they would let me know when things were due, like taxes, when I need to submit certain forms on a state level as well as a federal level. That way I wasn't going to be fined if I filed at the wrong time. Again, because it's not something that I do on the regular, I needed to have something backing me that could help me remind me of when I needed to submit registrations. And so that's pretty much it in regards to establishing my type. I do have a quote. It says, "Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value." And that's by Albert Einstein. Thanks for joining me, Sheri, with my Business Journey Journal. And I'll add some links below. As you know, I'm going to upload it on YouTube and Facebook, and it's also going to be on my blogging website and here on Instagram. Our next My Business Journey Journal is scheduled for January 26th with the topic Storefront. Right here live at Sheri's Dreamcatcher at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can also join me on January 28th for Sheri's Sip and Think Chat, which is on Dreams with a Deadline, live at Sheri's Dreamcatcher at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's remember that quote again. Strive not to be a success, but rather of value. Albert Einstein.